Good evening and welcome to the February 23rd Common Council meeting. Clerk, would you please read the announcement and call the roll?
February 23rd, 2016. Please be advised this meeting is being taped for video and audio broadcast. Assisted listening devices are available. Mr. Bonifant.
Here.
Mr. Porcello.
Here.
Mr. Hempstead.
Here.
Mr. Kimmel.
Here.
Mr. Sacchinelli. Ms. Melendez.
Here.
Mr. Sarasis.
Here.
Ms. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Sims. Mr. Kites.
Here.
Ms. Maggio.
Present.
Mr. De Palma. Ms. O'Toole Jindurko.
Here.
Mr. Igneri.
Here.
Mr. Livingston.
Here.
13 present, 2 absent.
13 present, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda, the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 9th, 2016. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Sims?
No.
Oh, Mr. Igneri.
Yes.
Moved by Mr. Igneri.
Our voices mixed up.
Any corrections, deletions, additions?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. O'Toole Jindurko.
there's just one little grammatical thing in the second column. Ms. King's city clerk read the notice stating that the meeting, and it reads the meeting. So I could clean it up a little bit.
Okay. Any further corrections, additions, deletions? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carries. Thank you. Public participation, Ms. King.
Sorry.
Please, as you're giving your remarks, please remember we have a 3-minute rule. If you would try to keep your comments within 3 minutes.
Mr. Gianderco.
Good evening. I just want to take this time to say hello to my wife. No, I'm only kidding. You guys have a little levity today. My name is Joseph Janderko. I live at 163 Chestnut Hill Road, and I'm here to talk about the cap for the budget. I'm a Norwalk school teacher, taxpayer, and I'm also the first vice president of the Norwalk Teachers Union. I come here to ask you to raise the cap and provide the students, teachers, and administrators the necessary funding to do our jobs. Teaching is a passion and it's a creative art. You deny Rembrandt his paint just to save a few nickels. By shaving off money from the Board of Ed, that's what you're just doing. At the finance meeting last Thursday, the talk was of a $7 increase to the tax bill. I know Norwalk can afford this. Tax relief to seniors is important, but I would ask a grandparent, would they prefer to have their grandchildren highly educated and prepared for the real world, or that $7 in their pocket? I'm sure they would side with their grandchildren. Seniors and singles also benefit from a strong educational system. This is not a partisan issue. Children are not Democrats or Republicans. They're basically simply wanting a good education. Fully fund a BOE to allow the teachers to meet their needs. Thank you.
Diane Cece.
Good evening, everybody. Diane Cece, 37 Olmsted Place. I'm here tonight to speak to item 7A10, the advancement of the seasonal ice skating rink to contract. I was at the public information session for this, and I came there and spoke out in favor of it. And for the record, I'm on the board of the Eastern Norwalk Neighborhood Association. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, though, just so you know the affiliation there. And one of the reasons I spoke in favor of it then was when the master plan for Veterans Memorial Park was being done, was being prepared, one of the most popular requests that came in as possible amenities for residents of Norwalk was a seasonal ice skating rink. And I thought then it was a great idea. We all thought it was a great idea, and I still think it's a great idea. But actually, I'm here tonight to ask you to send this item back to committee. I wasn't able to go to the public hearing, and I might have been asleep at the switch when the first presentation was done, because I was able to go through some documents now that Director Mokai presented to me just yesterday. And I don't think a lot of people maybe understand what the finances are around this package. I know it came up to you from committee, but I'd like you to reconsider and send it back to committee, because it looks like there's actually no revenue to the city for the first 4 years of operating. There's no flat license fee for the services, and then the revenue that's on the gross revenue doesn't kick in until year 4. So presumably, there's an operator here who has, 4 years of revenue and profit, and then there's nothing to the city, and then actually can just shut the operation down. The other thing that, the other piece of paper I just got yesterday, despite us asking for it to be posted on the city website, was the rendering of what these rinks would look like overlaid on a picture of the park. And 2 things in reference there. Originally, when we spoke about wanting a seasonal ice skating rink in Veterans Park, it was to have 1 rink, and the proposal came in as 2. And you'll see in your package that one of those 2 rinks is huge. I guess it's a regulation NHL rink, but it's really substantial, and the footprint of the entire operation is much bigger than I think what people anticipated. And then the operation itself, I think, is vastly different than what people may have imagined. I think we thought more of a kind of a neighborhood and Norwalk-related amenity for families here, but it seems to be something that needs to be able to draw on the region, and then also makes reference to hockey tournaments that would draw crowds from all around North America. And then also have some questions regarding the rink operator as well, and I haven't had time to do due diligence on the credentials there and what they're actually putting forth for their plan. So with that, and probably a few more things that I'm forgetting to say, I would respectfully ask if you could consider sending this back to the Recreation and Parks Committee so that people can do some more homework on it, and perhaps you have questions yourselves that you need answered and should go back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Mushak.
Good evening, Mike Mushak, 50 Elmwood Avenue. I'm here to speak on 3 items tonight. Number 1 is the authorization to an agreement with Triangle Community Center for Pride in the Park. That's an amazing event. It celebrates diversity. I'm gay, and I am really proud that our city has this event. It's unlike it in any other city in Connecticut that I'm aware of, where it's in a park. It's family friendly. It's got music. It's got food. It's really a lot of fun. So I think that if you came down there and saw it, it was kind of a rainbow display, literally, but also of the diversity of Norwalk. It's a celebration of our diversity. And I can't tell you how important that is to many of us. Second item is the, well, I'm going to skip over to the bridge on Perry Avenue. I support that. Of course, it's needed, but I want to make sure there's bike lanes on that bridge because that's a route of the Norwalk River Valley Trail, and we lost an opportunity on the New Canaan Avenue Bridge, which is going to cost more money to go back and fix because the trail comes up out of the woods on Riverside Avenue by the cemetery and has to cross New Canaan Avenue and then go up on the other side, and there's nothing on that bridge to accommodate the bike lane. So that was a lack of planning. In this case, I hope that, I'll talk to DPW, but I just want to get that on the record. The last thing is the rink. I don't think it needs to go back to committee. You guys have had all your questions answered, and I think you should vote on this tonight. It covers 2% of the park. I looked at the plans. It's a corner of the parking lot. Sure, it's a big rink, but it's a 35-acre park. This covers 25,000 square feet. It's a corner of the parking lot where the boat guys park. It's not gigantic. And yes, there may be a revenue delay to the city, but it's over $1 million investment that they're making, and eventually we'll do it. And what value can you put on a family event? What value should you put on children being able to skate with their parents and learning a new skill? What value can you put on that? That's a value that we are getting free for those first 4 years. So don't discount that value of the human quality of life value and the recreational value. I think it's a fabulous idea. I see it from my house. I look out. I'm not alarmed by the size of it at all. And in fact, I think it'll make Norwalk a really cool place, and Vets Park, a really cool destination in the winter. And I just wanted to have that master plan from 1990, which I found in my file, that says a majority of residents support an ice rink in Norwalk. So that's it. Thank you very much. If I missed, did I miss Susan? Did I say anything about Ms. Wallerstein?
No, you did not.
Oh my God, I almost forgot. Vote her in.
Can't remember and you can't get under the bar.
I was pretty impressed, Mr. Mushak. You spoke on 3 items and were within 3 minutes and 4 seconds. However, by forgetting Ms. Wallerstein, you kind of... And next item on the agenda, I'm sorry, is there any other?
No.
Nobody else has signed up to speak. Next item on the agenda, comments from the mayor. This coming Saturday, February 27th, the youth ministry from all over Norwalk going to be taking part in the 13th annual Hunger Walk. The walk begins at 9 o'clock at St. Jerome's Church on East Rocks Road, and they walk to St. Philip Street. They're expecting about 180 to 200 young teenagers and preteens who come together to fast for food for over 30 hours. Our mayor's Walk With Us walk this week will be joining them at St. Jerome's Church and walking down to St. Philip's. The interesting thing here, not interesting, the thing that this is all about, they fast for 30 hours. And it's to bring attention and to raise money. I think they raise $25,000 to $30,000 or more each time they do this. But they raise awareness of the fact that not just someplace, a far remote country, but right here in Fairfield County, right here in the state of Connecticut, and certainly all over the United States, we have people that go to bed hungry every night and they wake up hungry every morning. And many of those people are children. And we can't expect our young people to excel in school if they're hungry, if they go to bed hungry, if they're feeling the pangs of hunger. And when I address the group on Saturday morning, I always ask them, or I remind them of one thing. I'll say, when you wake up tomorrow morning after fasting for 30 hours, make a mental note of how you feel. Because there are young people and elderly people and people from all walks of life who wake up like that every single morning. And I commend the young people who bring attention, 200 young people that realize how important it is to bring awareness to hunger and bring awareness to poverty and to do everything they can to fight it. So if anybody is out and around on Saturday morning and they want to join the walk, we'll be there. Having said that, now this past Saturday, it was about 45 to 50 degrees when we started our weekly walk. It was dedicated, as you know, by reading the paper, to Lieutenant Tim Murphy. We started at Norwalk Police Department. We walked about 2 miles, and then we let off green balloons into the sky in memory of Lieutenant Murphy. So the walks are continuing again. We will continue to walk until there's no good weather or there's snow on the ground or it becomes too dangerous to walk. This Thursday night, Mr. Kites, we're having the solar symposium here at City Hall. We've selected Direct Energy, I believe it is, to provide solar energy and seminars at discounts to people in the city of Norwalk. It's one of our initiatives through the Mayor's Energy and Environmental Task Force to help people reduce their energy consumption, to reduce their carbon footprint, and to be more cognizant of being good inhabitants of Earth. And so please come out and learn about solar, learn about how you can have it done on your home for probably little or no cost. And last but not least, we're continuing, as you probably read the papers on Sunday, our small business visits. It's gone over rather nicely. This past Wednesday, we visited a place called the Panic Room in Norwalk. It was a very interesting place. If you have an opportunity to take a look at it, I would encourage it. But if you also know of a small business that would like some exposure, please have them get in touch with Ms. King or Elizabeth Stocker through my office, and we will put them on our schedule. We're looking for businesses that provide a unique service that the average person in the city of Norwalk and perhaps in surrounding communities would be interested in coming to visit and taking advantage and helping them to conduct their small business. So having said that, I will There's no further comments from my side, but now we have resignations and appointments. The first appointment that we have to the library board is Susan Wallerstein. Do I have a motion? Mr. Kimmel.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve I'd like to move that we approve the recommendation of Susan Wallerstein to the library board. Susan's smart, experienced, committed. She's been involved in many activities in Norwalk, and whenever she does get involved, she ends up doing a great job. So this is an excellent choice, and I hope we approve her unanimously.
Thank you. Further comments? Mr. Igneri.
I've known Susan for not as long as, as Mr. Kimmel, but I agree. She's smart, energetic. She always has a lot of ideas, and I think she'd be wonderful for the library.
Thank you. Any further comments? Mr. Sarasis.
I've worked with her in a couple different capacities, but it's mostly been around books and education, and I run into her in the library, and she is a very smart person, and I know she has a lot of heart and soul for the library, just like a lot of us do, and I think she's an excellent addition.
Thank you. Further comments? Mr. Hempstead?
Susan and I served many moons ago together, and actually it's probably one of the best ever terms. I agree with what Mr. Kimmel said. I mean, she's witty, she's sharp, she's very intelligent, but she likes to think things through and make sure the details are paid attention to. So it's an excellent choice for the library board.
Mr. Carcella?
Everything's been said. I'll just say that I agree that she would be an excellent addition to the library board, and I'm lucky she's willing to do it.
Any further comments? I'll just make one comment. I asked Ms. Wallerstein to take over as chairperson of the Arts Commission, the Mayor's Arts Commission. She's done a remarkable job. She's passionate. She does everything 100%, and I'm glad that she was willing to accept the position, because sometimes it's hard to get people to volunteer their time, and it's important that we have people who come forward, volunteer their time, and want to serve on these boards and commissions. So no further discussion. I'll take a vote. I'll signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Ms. Wallerstein. Now, I'm going to ask for we have several other appointments, and I'm going to ask for a motion to table that for the moment, or to move it on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I believe the ordinance we need to pass.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying that. We have to pass an ordinance first before we can make the next appointments. So I don't want to do it out of order, because I'd make the appointments before they were authorized to have been made. So I'm going to ask for a motion to go off or to move the item back on the agenda until after the consent calendar. Do I have that motion?
So made.
Mr. Igneri moves. Mr. Council President.
Okay, I'm going to assume that we are unanimously in favor of that. I hope no one minds. Under general council business, a few things to mention. Last Tuesday, the ordinance committee tweaked and prepared for a public hearing the new senior tax relief program that we have. We're also modifying making it better, our senior tax deferral program. Both will go to a public hearing in March, and then it'll come right to the full council at some time in March. We're basically increasing the eligibility, and I think I'm very proud of what we're doing. It's a combination of the Finance Committee, the Ordinance Committee, and the Energy Task Force. They helped sponsor, a couple weeks ago, a workshop, a senior tax relief workshop in City Hall. We almost canceled it because the weather was supposed to be frigid, with wind chill factor below zero. Yet that Saturday morning, there were 97 seniors who came out to the community room to get information on senior tax relief. Okay, and we were just stunned by the number of folks there. So we're moving ahead with that ordinance, and sometime in March, we'll all be voting on it. There's a little bit of another issue. There's a little bit of confusion among the public on the capital budget process. What the Planning Commission decided, or is in the process of deciding, is just the first step in a months-long process. When the Planning Commission is done with its capital recommendation, it will go to the mayor, who will make his recommendations. From there, it goes to the Board of Estimate and Taxation, and from there, it comes to the Common Council. There will be several public hearings, and a lot will happen from now until the spring regarding our capital expenses. Next month, the Planning Committee of the Council will be holding, during one of its meetings, will be briefed on the Board of Ed's facilities program, and at another point sometime after that, we'll hold a public hearing on the capital budget, and we'll keep public aware of everything we've been doing regarding that. The Board of Estimate and Taxation on March 23rd will be holding a public hearing on the operating budget. This is the time and the place where folks can come out and discuss particular line items, the amount of money different departments are getting. That's what that public hearing is for. And soon after that, in the 2 weeks after that, the Board of Estimate will make some final determinations on how the money is spent, where it comes from, how much each department gets. So March 23rd should be marked on your calendar. And finally, this Monday, February 29th, 6 o'clock, in this room, Tom Hennick, the Chief I always call him the Chief Information Officer of State FOI, will be in Norwalk dealing with council members and other elected officials as well as department heads to ask questions, and for us to ask questions and learn as much as we can about the Freedom of Information Act, what we can do, what we can't do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, that kind of thing. So there's just a lot happening, and I hope some of you can make these meetings, especially March 23rd, public hearing on the operating budget. That's where we get it. That's where you get into the nitty-gritty of the different departments. Okay, regarding resignations and appointment, we have one appointment. This requires 11 votes. It's to the Board of Ethics. And do I hear a motion to nominate Kara Murphy to the Board of Ethics? Mr. Sims?
Well, I'm just going to recuse myself from
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sims. Okay, let the record show that Mr. Sims has recused himself. So do I hear a motion for Ms. Murphy? Mr. Corsello.
I'd like to place Cara Murphy's name in nomination. You see from your packet, her resume, she's a very experienced, accomplished lawyer, works for a very well-respected law firm here. She's well-recognized by her peers, selected as a delegate to the Connecticut Bar Association. I got to know her because we served together on the Fairfield Judicial District Grievance Panel, which is a body that adjudicates ethical complaints against lawyers. She's intelligent, diligent, works very hard. She has a feel for right and wrong, and she's fair. I think she'd be a great addition to our ethics committee, and I'm happy she's willing to serve in that capacity.
Okay, so Ms. Murphy's been put forward by, nominated by Mr. Corsello. Any other comments?
Mr. Kimmel.
Mr.
Is that her
Bonifant?
back there?
That's the one.
Just want to wish you good luck, and if we never hear from you again, that's better.
Okay.
I guess.
All right, anyone else?
I guess.
Anyone else on the appointment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise their hands. Looks like it's unanimous, okay? Thank you. I want to point out to you and to council members that I believe Ms. Murphy's term will expire in about a month, March 16th. And I'm confident when we put your name forward again, it will be approved. So you're serving out one term, only to begin another term next month, okay? So we'll see you again in about a month. Thank you very much, okay? That's it for me. Regarding the consent calendar, this meeting, it's Mr. Casello's turn to read it.
Okay. First item is to authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with the Triangle Community Center for Pride in the Park to take place Sunday, June 5th, 2016, in Matthews Park from 12 noon to 8 p.m. The setups to take place on Sunday, June 5th at 7 a.m., and the teardown no later than 8 p.m. on Sunday, June 5th. Also, to approve the use of the showmobile by the Triangle Community Center for the Pride in the Park to be held as said June 5th, 2016. Item 2, to authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with the Norwalk YMCA Camp Sunrise to use Calf Pasture Beach for their summer camp on the following Fridays: June 24th, July 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, August 5th, 12th, 19th, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Item 3, authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with South Norwalk Arts Celebration, Inc. for the use of 50 Washington Plaza, Veterans Park parking area, and Heritage Oyster Shell Park for the 40th Annual Sono Arts Celebration to be held Friday through Sunday, August 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2016, from 7 a.m. Friday, August 5th, 2016, through 6 p.m. Sunday, August 7th, 2016. Item 4, authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with the Color Vibe 5K for use of Veterans Park to hold a road race on Saturday, August 20th, 2016, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. The setup to take place on Friday, August 19th at 9 a.m., and the teardown no later than 12 noon on Sunday, August 21st. Item 5, authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with DBA Alzheimer's Association Connecticut Chapter to use Calf Pasture Beach for a Walk to End Alzheimer's Sunday, September 18th, 2016, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The setup to take place on Sunday, September 18th, 2016, at 6 a.m., with the teardown no later than 5 p.m. on Sunday, September 18th. Item 6, authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with Achilles International to host a lighthouse-to-lighthouse race in Shady Beach from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday, September 17th, 2016. The setup to take place Saturday, September 17th, 2016, 6 a.m. The teardown no later than 8 p.m. on Saturday, September 17th, 2016. Item 7, to authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with William Ravis Charitable Fund for use of Calf Pasture Beach for a William Ravis Ride and Walk event to take place Sunday, October 16th, 2016, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. The setup to take place Saturday, October 15th, 2016, at 8 a.m. and Sunday, October 16th, 2016, at 5 a.m. Teardown no later than 5 p.m. on Sunday, October 16th. Okay. Not done yet. Item 8, authorize Mayor Rilling to enter into an agreement with the Exchange Club of Norwalk for the use of Taylor Farm for the annual Norwalk Exchange Antique Auto Show to be held Sunday, April 24th, 2016, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., with a rain date of Sunday, May 1st, 2016. Set up to take place Thursday, April 21st at 12 noon. Tear down no later than 12 noon. Item 9, authorize Mayor Rilling to enter an agreement with Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation for the use of Brian McMahon Casa Grande Field on Sunday, September 25th, 2016, from 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., set up to take place at 6 a.m. and the teardown no later than 5 p.m. Item B1, to authorize Mayor Rilling to execute an agreement with PJF Construction Corp. For Connecticut DOT project number 102-319. The project is the rehabilitation of the Perry Avenue Bridge over the Norwalk River in the amount of $3,422,165.71. Item 2, to further authorize the Director of Public Works to issue orders on the contract to PJF Construction Corp. For DOT project number 102-319, the rehabilitation of the Perry Avenue Bridge in the amount not to exceed $342,217. And reference is made to 3 different accounts. They're contained in item 7B2 in tonight's agenda. Item C1, to approve revisions to Chapter 103 entitled Taxation. It's Article 5, Section 103-14. It involves increasing the membership to the Board of Tax Appeals and also the appointment of alternates. Item C2, to approve proposed revisions to the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, and further the bylaws of the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission. Item D1, to accept and approve the report of the Claims Committee dated February 2nd, 2016. And I think that's it.
D2?
Item two.
Item T, 2 and 3.
2 and 3. That's fine.
To the extent to which we need to do so, for informational purposes only, narrative on tax collections dated February 11th, 2016. And for informational purposes only, monthly tax collectors report dated January 31st, 2015.
Okay, that is the consent calendar as read. Are there any changes in it? Anybody like to remove something? Okay, hearing none, if you're okay with the consent calendar, please raise your hand. Okay, consent calendar passes unanimously. I will give the floor over to the mayor in 1 second. And Mr. Hempstead, 2 weeks from now is your turn. I think you've done it before, and you'll handle it beautifully. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for
Now
warning.
that we've approved via the consent calendar, the change in the ordinance required before we can make the following appointments, I will hand the chair back to the mayor, who will take over regarding the appointments and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. Does everybody have a copy of the appointments as proposed? If there's no objection, I'll appoint the ask for a motion for the regular members together. Mr. Hempstead?
Just questioning, don't we need to suspend the rules to add them to the agenda?
Yes.
First?
That's
Okay,
right. Would you like to make that amendment?
you got it.
You can make that
I'm
motion
sorry.
too.
I can make an amendment.
So you'll make the
Add
motion to,
Suspend the
New alternates, or whatever they are, the additions to the tax relief board. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules, take this item up.
okay, Mr. Hempstead made a motion to suspend the rules to add Norwalk Board of Assessment Appeals appointments. Do we have any further comment? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. So now we will move these forward. First of all, for regular members to the Norwalk Board of Assessment Appeals, reappointment of Kathleen Clement and the appointment of Harriet Patrides as regular members. Do I have a motion? Mr. Kimmel.
Yeah, I move that we appoint both of them.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Thank you. Next item, appoint alternate members to the Norwalk Board of Assessment Appeals. And this is this is made necessary by the fact that this is a year when there's going to be assessment appeals. This is for I believe for a year period, or is that correct, Mr. Kimmel? Okay, so anyway.
To the point of order. I believe we also received an email today from Leslie Sullivan.
Right.
Excusing herself.
She's asked not to be appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to not move that forward. So I'm going to move forward with the reappointment of Vincent Boconfuso, Arlene Chaffee, Megan Douglas Warren, and Jan Woodward as reappointments as alternate members. Do I have a motion? Mr. Agneri. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye, or raise your hand. Okay, so carried. And now for appointments as alternate members, Mr. Peter Lane and Tim Rorick. Do I have a motion? Mr. Sims moves. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Kimball.
Just briefly, this is a hard, difficult job and a thankless job, and I just want to publicly, on the record, commend anybody who is willing to serve on this board. It's tough. Sometimes it's hard to say no, but you need to do it. Sometimes it's easy to say yeah, but you say no anyway, and it's a complicated issue. It's just got to commend these folks for doing it. It's tough.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will signify your approval by raising your hands. Carried unanimously. Opposed, abstentions, seeing none. Thank you. We'll move back to the regular agenda. And
Swearing in.
yes, do we have any, Ms. Wallerstein, you've been appointed. Do we have another, and Ms. Murphy, any further appointments that we have here in the audience? Would you come down and the city clerk will administer the oath of office to you?
wants to be first? Okay, Susan. You're up, Susan.
What?
How many times have we done this? Please raise your right hand. You, Susan O. Wallerstein, having been appointed to the Public Library Board of the City of Norwalk, do solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office according to your best skill and judgment, so help you God, or upon the pains and penalties of perjury. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you for willingness to serve.
You can keep one. Okay, here we are. If you raise your right hand, please. You, Carol A.T. Murphy, having been appointed to the Ethics Board of the City of Norwalk, do solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office according to your best skill and judgment, so help you God, or upon the pains and penalties of perjury. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Sign them both.
Thank you so much.
That's your copy. Thank you, Karen.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move back to the regular agenda. The first item, Mr. Sims. Item 7A10.
Yes, authorize the mayor here to enter an agreement with the rink at Harbor Point LLC to set up, operate, and manage portable rinks at Veterans Memorial Park for October 1st to March 30th each year with terms as outlined.
Mr. Sims moves the item. Discussion? Did you wish to discuss, Mr. Sims, first?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself on this one, all right?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm working down the ice rink, and I'm going to stand out of it the whole time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sims?
Mayor, I think that this project is going to, as been stated by several folks here on this evening, this ice rink is going to be paramount to the transformation of Norwalk. I think it's going to really be great for a lot of the kids that never ice skated before to get an opportunity and a chance to learn. And also, it's going to be great for a lot of the families to get out and do something different in Norwalk. So I'm very, very honored and pleased that this ice rink is being proposed to be put here in Norwalk, and I'm asking for the entire support of the council here.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Kimmel?
Yeah, I'm going to support the item also. I will say, though, for the record, I think a number of council members who I spoke to felt that the backup that had been provided could have been more, it could have been clearer, could have been presented in a more orderly way. We ended up with a lot of questions that we needed to have answered prior to getting to this point. And to his credit, Mr. Mokai, the director of our Parks and Recs Department, he did arrive here early. He met with both sides, and at least I think for our side, Democratic side, he answered a lot of questions, okay? And I want to commend him for doing that. Somehow going forward, when we get these contracts, on the one hand, we're not in a position to micromanage the details of every contract. There has to be some trust with our lawyers and department heads. On the other hand, when we do have questions, raise them immediately. I think it's much more efficient to raise the questions immediately, contact the department head or contact corporation counsel right away, and that's much more efficient than sending it back to committee where you have to wait some 2 to 4 weeks and will slow projects down. So fortunately, Mr. Mokai answered a number of the pertinent questions this evening, and I hope it's clear enough in people's minds that we can go forward with it.
Mr. Hempstead?
Oh,
Ladies first, if that's okay.
Ms. O'Toole-Durko?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to commend Mike for answering all of our questions and being available to us as we've gone through this process. I, for one, however, don't feel that Mike answering questions is one thing. Us authorizing the mayor to sign a contract that we can't make heads or tails of because of just, I think it was a collating issue more than anything, but we've got mixed information in the RFP versus the proposal versus the contract. Some information that we went over and over again in the committee is only referenced in the memorandum. It's not referenced in the documents. So I don't think it needs to go back to committee. We had asked if it could just get tabled to the next council meeting and get cleaned up, with which Mike felt comfortable with, but I guess everybody else feels okay to move forward tonight. So those are my comments.
Mr. Hempstead.
Yeah, I have some questions, and I'm telling somebody who deals with contracts a lot, and I do take my role seriously that when we're authorizing contracts over the years, that we're authorizing something that is explicit. We've done this a couple different ways. One way to do it, as we did with the Maritime Center, we agreed to all the conceptual changes to the lease for the Maritime Center basically when we did that, but the final document came back to the council once it was completed by the law department. Most documents we do get before us to sign are complete agreements. This is a 10-year plus a 5 and 5, and I take this very seriously. And just, I'm going to preface this all. I have no problem with that screening. I think it's a great idea. I warmed up to it. Originally, I thought it was in a different spot, the park, and that was my major concern. I thought it was down by the marina. So I guess if we're going to proceed, because there are a lot of conflicts in this lease that I guess we're proposing to sign this, we're authorizing this lease, which is in our packet. So I hate to do this, but I'd like to go through just a couple questions and understand what it is actually we're passing on. So bear with me. If you can, and anybody that can answer that, be it Mr. Mokaya, be it the law department. I'm just going to go to, I guess this is called page 19 of the license agreement, but it's item number 2. It's probably the smallest of them. It talks about the term of the agreement for 10 seasonal years with the operational period of each season effective October 1st, expiring 11/55. All right. At the full discretion of the city, the agreement may be extended to 11/55 up to March 30, 2006 through 2 5-year amendments to the agreement. Two things that I don't understand, and it's conflicting and does it again. We got one sheet that showed a 10-year 5 and 5 payment, and we got another sheet as a schedule showing 20 years. So I don't know which schedule we're adopting, because one schedule flies in the face of what's before here. And the RFP also only asked for a 10, 5, and 5 system. So I'd like to know what exhibit that is part of this agreement that talks about how much the revenue sharing we're supposed to get from the city is attached to this. It doesn't do anything or mention this at all. There's no exhibit to go with it, because we got 3 different ones. And if you count the backup, we got 2 different blank ones. Also, that usually in anything like that, there's a notice of renewal. Both parties have to either say that they're going to terminate by or that. It doesn't say one way or the other that they've got to tell 6 months in advance or a year in advance. They want the extra 5 years.
Would you like Mr. Mokay to come
Yeah,
down?
if we can answer that one.
Would you like Mr. Mokay to come down and answer the question?
Mr. McKay, whoever wants to answer that.
Mr. Mokay?
I don't know how to fix this.
And the Corporation Council is here to
Right.
answer any further questions that you might have.
Well, with regard, and I wasn't involved with the agreement, and I think it's just a sample agreement that was attached to the RFP, right? Correct? Is that what you're reading from, the sample agreement?
This is a sample agreement.
Yeah,
Well, it
so-
doesn't say sample, it's made out to them. It's the agreement. It's an agreement by, and that is better know.
It's a sample agreement.
Well, it's a sample, but I'm just saying, the terms are in there. We're voting on terms.
I understood, but it says sample, and anyway, so,
Okay,
but number 2, it says, the term, you had asked about the extension, it says 2016 through 2026.
That's 10 years.
10 years, which is the term, but then it says, at the full discretion of the city, the agreement may be extended to 11:55 PM up to March 30th, 2036. So for another 2 5-year amendments. So solely at the discretion of the city. You asked about when does a party have to give notice. It says right here, the city could give notice up to 11:55 the night, for the last day. So it gives basically full discretion to the city.
I understand that. I'm surprised they would sign on to it, plus that we would wait up to the last minute and not notify. But I'm
You
also.
start when you sometimes negotiate, you start at one point and you end up somewhere else. So you know that, I'm sure.
No, and I know, but I'm saying that we've been asked to agree, but this conflicts with the payment schedule, so I'm trying to figure out what exhibit goes with this. the payment schedule has one shows for a straight 20 years agreement. And 2 5s after that, one shows a 10, 5, and 5, and then one shows a blank 10, 5, and 5. So I'm just trying to say is what is the fiduciary responsibility and what is the term? If the term is 10, 5, 5, then just tell me which exhibit, that goes with this. That's why I think this needs cleaning up.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, Doug. What is the 10, 5, and 5?
Okay, so.
That is the term.
This lease says 10, 5, and 5.
I got it, but also the percentages are in that portion of the lease. That's where the zero comes up to, and 3% and 5%. So I'm just trying to figure out which one it is. We've got 3 different versions. That's all. I'm trying to be a good person voting on a lease agreement for 10 years that I'm all in favor of. It's just a question of, there's a fee schedule here.
In the packet, there should be a second proposal.
There's one. Is that the one we're voting on?
No, there's one that says second proposal. That's the one.
I don't think it's actually second proposal. It's just the one that doesn't say first proposal.
The one that came second.
Yeah. So it's the one that looks like the one that says first proposal that doesn't say first proposal.
Guys, I don't know. I wouldn't go to my board of directors and ask them to vote on this kind of lease at this condition. I think it needs to be changed. Well, if somebody could, Mike, if somebody can come up with the exact one, mark it Exhibit A, so we put it in the books or something. So we can move this over, here are the other questions, like page 29, which is item 5, termination. In the lease agreement, we're asking termination that you can notify them at any time and basically tell them, have a nice day, within 14 days. He objected to that, but the objection that he sent along is open-ended. He talks about he wants to be compensated, but doesn't say what the compensation schedule is. The depreciation is a lot less in year 5 than it is year 10. I mean, these are pretty serious questions for $1 million something operation that we're putting in there. So I'm just saying that portion has not been answered. So basically, is it this one that says the city can say, have a nice day in 14 days, and you have to be out in 14 days? Or is it the one that he objected to and sent a note that here's what he's proposing, but it doesn't define anything? Anybody have an answer?
Your first question was the exhibit. It did say second proposal, but it's sort of like the second to the last page. It goes from year 1 to year 12.
So if I read across, just make sure I got 2017, if he does between 1 million and 2 million, the city gets $32,856. That's one?
Well, that one, but the other one shows just the percent.
All right. So this is the fee schedule for the 10, 5, and 5?
Yes.
So I guess I'd like to make a motion, I guess separately, to add this to the contract? The document for the fee schedule?
Do you want to, do you have any other questions before you?
But yeah, well, I'm still trying to figure out about the termination. Which one applies? The license agreement that we're voting on tonight, even though it's a sample, says he's got no, basically, the ice company has no rights. The city gets to tell him, we don't like what you're doing, whatever, 14 days for no reason at all. Doesn't say you have to give him even a decent reason or anything. Just to go away.
Has the lease been negotiated yet with the
Well,
tenant?
most of the items have been agreed.
But has the lease, let me ask you this, have you referred this to the law department yet?
They just came up with the sample. We haven't added everything that we added.
So at this point, there's not a lease, there's not a draft of the lease prepared, correct, yet?
No.
So there's just a sample lease which
Correct.
you use for the RFP?
Correct.
And you're in the process of negotiating terms, but the law department hasn't been referred. Here's kind of an LOI where we, letter of intent as to where we're at with this and.
Correct.
And go draft, okay.
Correct.
Doug, a lot of your questions, which I think are fair questions, may not be able to be answered until this is referred to the law department and Diane or I have an opportunity to review it.
Well, I'm trying to go through this. Is there a way? I'm trying to figure the best methodology that I think would be a responsible methodology for sending this to the law department with the conceptuals here that we are in favor of putting an ice rink in. We're in favor of a 10, 5, and 5 term. We're in favor of the table that has the revenue streams, the percentages on it as exhibits, and then ask for the final contract to come back to the council, because there's just so many holes here.
Well, that makes sense. And a lot of times when it comes to you, it's in final form or it's not even in draft form. So I think that makes sense. Is it time critical? Could you wait for the next council meeting for a vote on this?
We can wait till the next council.
And if it's not time critical, next time, it should be referred when there's actually a lease agreement in place. So that because I think in order to evaluate the lease agreement, you gotta know what the terms are, and if there's potentially pushback to any of the terms that are proposed in the form lease, then council needs to know what those amended terms are. So probably the best way to handle this is, when you confirm all the terms in your negotiations, refer it over to law department, and, maybe we have to do some final negotiations at the law department with their counsel, but let it then come back here after a lease has been, agreed to by both parties.
Mr. Hempstead, are you going to make a motion to table?
No, I actually was going to make a motion. I'm looking at the chairman of the family because I'm trying to get this done, but I think it needs to be clean. If you go to the memorandum, that was first part of our packet, it outlines the lease. So I like to see us pass the memorandum, which gives all the guidelines to the law department to come back with the right conditions and a lease. It's the one dated February 16th, I think, from Mayor Rilling. I guess the only thing that might need to be changed is it says 20-year period. It's a 10-year period with 2 5-year renewals.
But I would suggest condition upon the final lease coming back here to the council.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
And, you could approve it on consent, but at least that you have an opportunity to review.
Right, so my motion would be or if the chair would be willing to take it as just himself, if we can pass the conditions of approval with the final lease coming back to the council for approval. Yeah? Or do you want to table it? Motion, I guess.
Yeah. Mr. Sims has made the original motion. Do you want to withdraw that motion?
I'll withdraw that motion.
Okay. And now, did you want to make a motion consistent with what Mr. Hempstead asked, or would you ask Mr. Hempstead to make the motion?
Mr. Hempstead to make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion to, on the memorandum of February 16, 2016, pass the concept of the rink at Harbor Point LLC at Veterans Park, the portable rinks, which addresses the additional terms of the contract, location of the rinks on the Stratford-Lena Bridge side of Veterans Park, and all the other elements that are in the RFP. All right. And then at such time contract is finalized, and subject back to the council for final approval.
Subject to
Council.
Subject to final review and approval of the final lease agreement prior to execution by the parties.
Yes. What he said.
Any more discussion on it? Mr. Kimmel?
Yeah, there's, over the last few years, I think there's probably 3 or 4 occasions where we face this kind of situation, where we go through the backup, and sometimes the backup has everything we want, sometimes we have some questions, sometimes something's not clear. And I believe probably the most difficult time we had with something like this had to do with the Maritime Aquarium. And we really had, we thought we had all of our answers, all of our questions answered, but then we just weren't sure of ourselves, and we didn't want to get into something that could hurt us down the line. And we've had problems in past years going way back with land disposition agreements, which had not been thoroughly vetted, and it would come back to haunt us in years going forward. So I think it's a good idea to, since it is not time sensitive, to move forward with Mr. Hempstead's approach in this case. We'll get it in 2 weeks, and hopefully we will have all of our questions answered, and we won't find ourselves scratching our heads in a couple of years saying, "Oh, I didn't know that." So that's a good idea. I'll support it.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to.
Mr. Livingston.
Excuse me, to make sure I understand the motion. Is this to just have the law department draft based on this, or are we also giving them the right and ability to make any such other changes as they deem appropriate? Because we're going to look at it again, right?
The way this, I understand this usually goes by doing the conceptual, basically passing out to come back. They are supposed to put the lease together back for a full presentation with the
Presentation to the council.
I think what you just
We're
described,
gonna get a-
you just described it correctly. Essentially what this is you're agreeing to the terms in principle, saying, in principle, we agree these terms. The law department has to put together the agreement with the other side, probably negotiate some of the terms out, and then we'll come back to you for final approval.
Right. My only point is I want to make sure we're not limiting what you do based upon what we approve here.
I'll make sure, yeah, I appreciate you saying that, but we'll make sure that we know we have some discretion there to negotiate terms that we think, any issues that we think need to be negotiated on behalf of the city.
Mr. Corsello.
Do we need to actually vote on anything to authorize negotiations, or can they just take place and then have the proposed lease come to us? Do we need to take any action tonight for the negotiations to take place?
Probably not, but, essentially what you're proving is in concept the terms, subject to negotiating terms that are acceptable to the city. So you could do this without a vote of approval tonight by just tabling it, or doing it by virtue of the vote that's been proposed. You could go either way on it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion as presented by Councilman Hempstead?
You read it again? I'm sorry, can you read it again?
No.
Nope.
Was the question?
In brief, it's taking the terms of contract listed on the letter of February 16, 2016 to Mayor Rilling and council members, and authorizing the law department to develop a lease for the rink and come back to the council with the final version for its authorization.
To date certain?
No. No date certain.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Thank you. Mr. Kimmel.
Okay, the cap resolution, I was just thinking, this is the 11th time I've read this same resolution, going back too long a period of time. I would like to read the resolution, it's not long, then offer an amendment, and then speak to the amendment, if that's okay. Okay? Whereas, Section 1-289 of the Norwalk Charter requires that a majority of the Common Council vote to establish a specific spending limitation on locally funded expenditures during the process of establishing the next fiscal year's operating budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Norwalk that the maximum limit on total appropriations for the City of Norwalk for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016 shall be no more than $316,339,469. This appropriation cap represents total expenditures of $337,095,669, less estimated intergovernmental grants of $20,756,200. Be it further resolved that the result of this vote and resolution, together with the attached 2016-17 budget guide, be forwarded by the clerk of the City of Norwalk to the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Okay, I'd like to move that resolution and now offer an amendment.
Mr. Kimmel.
Okay, I'm going to read the section. It has the numbers, and I'm going to offer different numbers to the tune of an additional $300,000. So I would like to amend the resolution this way. The maximum limit on total appropriations for the City of Norwalk for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016 shall be no more than $316,639,469. Let me repeat that. The new number is $316,639,469. This appropriation cap represents total expenditures of $337,395,669, less estimated intergovernmental grants of $20,756,200. Okay, that is the amendment. It reads, it's basically increased the cap, what we call the cap, by $300,000, and I'd like to speak to that right now.
Mr. Kimmel.
Okay, now, if we were to adopt either the original spending cap or the amended cap, this would result in the lowest tax increase for Norwalk residents in, from what we're told, at least a decade. The lowest tax increase in at least a decade. Now, we are acutely aware that it leaves the Board of Education with a $300,000 reconciliation, which means it's $300,000 less than the total request that the Board of Education has made to the city. Now, the mayor repeatedly has stressed that he will do everything within his power to ensure that the Board of Ed, at the end of the budget process, has all of the money it needs to fund all of the programs it wishes to implement. That by the end of the budget process, the Board of Education will indeed be fully funded. We have also pledged, the mayor's also pledged, and we support that pledge, that if there are any additional shortfalls in the Board of Ed's operating budget, we will work with them to ensure that they come up with the money. We will do everything within our power, whether it's through the special appropriation process, through contingency, through working with the Board of Estimate and Taxation, through working with the Board of Education to find efficiencies and savings. We will do everything within our power to ensure that at the end of this budget period, which is prior to the beginning of the next fiscal year, the Board of Ed will have all of the money it has asked for. Now, there's been a little bit of misunderstanding regarding the total amount of money that the Board of Education has asked for. There is also parallel, but not included in the official operating budget, is a request from the Board of Education for an additional $3.6 million spread evenly over a 3-year period to transform, restructure special education as we know it in Norwalk. We have pledged, the mayor, and I'm sure the full council, I certainly do, pledged to support this request. Right now, we're working out the best way to fund it with minimal impact on taxpayers this coming year and going forward in the future. We have to be careful. There are certain state laws regarding the amount you increase the Board of Education budget each year and then what you're allowed to do the subsequent year. Without getting into that, we fully support that request. We believe it's the perfect time to do it, and we really are backing the superintendent in his efforts to restructure special education. I want to, as a former teacher, and being aware of the difficulties that municipalities are having across the country regarding the cost of special education and the best way to deliver it, I've just got to commend Superintendent Adamowski. We've had, since 2007, 3 separate correct reports. I've taken issue with the city regarding special ed. These are reports that focused specifically on special ed. And finally, we have a superintendent who's really addressing probably the most difficult, most complicated, and in some respects the most expensive issue facing school systems around the country. And I really have to applaud him on that. One other thing regarding the budget and some of the misinformation about whether we're spending more money on the city side or the Board of Ed side, while I personally don't like to pit one side against the other, I don't think it's productive. I should point out that in the city side this time around, there is an unfunded state mandate to the tune of $1,150,000. Under state law, we have, because there's a strict timeline around revaluations, under state law, we have to have in this budget the money for the next revaluation. And we're beginning discussions on who we're going to hire, what kind of reval we're going to do. There's a precise timeline that we have to follow. The money has to be in the 16-7 operating budget. So we have this line that's really not going to any department. It's an unfunded mandate. Again, it's $1,150,000. Now, what's interesting, When you include the unfunded mandate, the city side spending increases 3.1%, and the Board of Ed spending increases about 2.7%. It's a little bit higher now if we approve the amendment that I offered. But what's interesting, and I think it's indicative of what we're working towards, a balanced approach to budgeting, when you do remove the unfunded mandate regarding the revaluation, the increase on the city side is also 2.7. It's 2.7 for the board, it's 2.7 for the city. You know, in some ways it's fair. In some ways, I think the schools deserve every penny they can get, and we're doing our best, and we will continue to do our best to make sure that happens. Finally, I am convinced when all is said and done, the Board of Ed will be, and I swore I never use these two words again, but I'm going to use it. When all is said and done in this budget cycle, the Board of Ed will be fully funded. It will have all of the money it requested. It will have all of the money it needs to implement the vision of our new superintendent. And I want to commend Mayor Rilling, Mr. Barron, Mr. Hamilton on the Board of Ed side, Dr. Adamowski, and members of the Finance Committee, the Council, and the Board of Ed. We've actually worked quite hard. We've had some differences. There's been some hiccups along the way, but you know, the closer you get, sometimes you find yourself having these kinds of disputes, but not on the bigger picture. We have always supported, and the mayor has always supported the initiative to restructure special ed in this city. It's long overdue. I remember in the 1990s discussing out-of-district tuition, the cost of special ed. We've never got a handle on this. So here we have a chance to do something really great for the city. Most of all, it will help the children in special ed. It will also help a lot of other folks in our school system. And I also want to commend a fellow teacher, Mr. Gianderco. We talked a little bit before the meeting. He has his perspective on school funding. From his perspective, I can't get rid of that perspective, having been a teacher for 25 years, and I appreciate it. But what we're doing now is, I think, the best for the city of Norwalk in the long run. And no matter how you cut it, the Board of Ed will have the money it needs at the end of the day. So I hope you support this additional $300,000. It's a compromise. We know the difference was $600,000. It's a compromise. It's a good faith effort. I won't say it's an olive branch because we were never at war. We all supported the same goals. There was some minor differences. But this is a compromise, and I think it's fair, and I hope we all can support it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, before we take the vote, I will echo what Mr. Kimball said. I had a meeting as recently as this afternoon with Dr. Adamowski over some inaccurate reports that were coming back to him through various sources, including the fact that some things were said at the caucus meeting last night where I wasn't even present, but I was at the Board of Estimate and Taxation meeting. Dr. Adamowski and I had a conversation last week. We were originally $600,000 apart in the amount of money being asked for by the Board of Ed. And I went up and talked to him and said, we will replace $300,000 with the understanding that we will look for some anticipated savings as outlined by the finance director for the city of Norwalk of approximately $300,000 in their fuels expenditures and energy expenditures. And I further said to Dr. Adamowski, you have my commitment that we continue to meet over the next couple of months and try to work towards a budget that that will fully fund the Board of Ed. I said, and if the anticipated savings are not there in the fuel account or in the energy account, obviously the budget process is not a static process. It's dynamic and it's a work in progress. As you all know, we come back periodically and we ask for transfers, or to the Board of Estimate and Taxation transfers, special appropriations, and so forth. And I promised Dr. Adamowski, and I'll repeat it here today, that we will make sure that the Board of Education does have all the amount they need to fund the programs that they're seeking to fund. And I, too, commend Dr. Adamowski for finally being able or being willing to take on the CREC report and deal with the difficult challenges that are outlined in that CREC report. So the easy thing to do for us and for the Board of Estimate and Taxation at any time we're in the budget process is to say, look, whatever any department wants, let's give it to them. But that's not the responsible thing to do for the taxpayers. Taxpayers want to make sure that we work. We roll up our sleeves, we look where we can make some responsible cuts, and we fund the critical programs that are needed not only to provide our children with the best education possible, but to provide our city departments the resources so that they can provide the services that our citizens demand. Now, as Mr. Kimmel mentioned, last Saturday, when there was wind chill factors below zero, we had 97 people, 97 seniors, come out in that weather to learn how they can take advantage of the senior tax relief program in the city of Norwalk and the state of Connecticut. Those people expect us to be responsible as well. So being responsible, we will work together. We will make sure that the Board of Education has the funding that they need, that they will be fully funded, and we will do that either through continued dialogue before the end of before the budget is finalized, or continued dialogue in monitoring the expenditures and so forth and finding the money during the budget season. If not, special appropriations and transfers are always an option. So I want to thank everybody for the hard work that they've put into this. And now I will ask for a vote. All in favor of the motion as amended by Mr. Kimmel,
We're voting on
please.
the amendment, right?
Pardon me?
We're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment as voted on by as put forth by Mr. Kimmel. Okay, it's unanimous, and now we will vote on the item. Further discussion, Mr. Hempstead.
I'd like to make another amendment, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to make a motion to add another 300,000, so at least we send a message that we are willing to really and truly fund the Board of Education's budget this term. And I'd like to kind of qualify why I'm saying and making this motion. I've been through enough of these to know, and I do take you at your word, you and I had a discussion offline the other night, quickly, that the Board of Estimate and Taxation made an effort. I've also know every experience of the Board of Estimate and Taxation, I think, yet to date, whatever is, at least what my experience has been, has never gone the whole route of the expenditures, never expended up to the cap. They come close a couple of times. But over the last 3 years, and several members that are here have said that, there has been a great level of trust that was finally accepted by the council about the quality of the books that they've been putting forward to us and the expenditures putting forward to us, that somebody was actually keeping track and putting together a very forthright and honest budget. Years ago, there were a lot of us who voted down or went to cuts because we didn't believe, and that proved true, because we would say something and they'd be threatened and parents would scream at us. I won't say which superintendent would tell us how they're going to cut sports programs, do this, do that, and then you'd get to the next year and all those programs would survive. I think at this time, since we've had a revolving door for a variety of reasons of superintendents going through the system, and I've heard them vehemently argue about 5.6 increases, 4.5 increases, but this is an increase that I think that they really feel that is important to them to continue down a path of improving our system. We are not in a cap giving anybody the 300,000, another 300,000. We're raising the cap, and that disbursement comes long after us to who it's going to, or if it goes to no one. The question is, I think we just need to send at least somewhat of a message that we fully, truly do support the Board of Education budget, and however they find the money, as long as we can get there, that's a great thing. So I'm going to make a motion to the 300 because I think that puts the level of 600 they were seeking additionally to what was being proposed. So that's my motion.
Mr. Kimmel.
I appreciate Mr. Hempstead's amendment, but I'm going to vote against it. I agree with him. We've mended, going back about a decade since then, we've mended our relations with the Board of Ed. They've been very good. We have to continue working that way. I don't believe, though, that requires us to fully fund, totally fund a $176 million request. We will find the money, or they will find the money. It will be a done deal. We all know that budgets are evolving. They evolve over time. This budget doesn't even kick in until July 1st. I think the $300,000 is not a fiscal. It's a very small amount in a budget the size of the Board of Ed. It wasn't a fiscal question. It was a question of compromise, reaching halfway over a very small difference, And I want to say, I did plan to point out some of the misinformation that's been out there. And I talked briefly about the capital budget. I talked about a couple other things. One piece of misinformation that did hearken back to those days you referred to was the public statements that if this $300,000, if this additional $300,000 is not approved tonight, class sizes will go up to 30, which violates the contract. It's not going to happen. And it's the kind of tactic I remember and I'm very sensitive to because I served on the Board of Education, as you all know, between 2005 and 2009. And I sat over there while a former superintendent stood over there and said, if we don't get every penny, we have to begin to look at the feasibility of continuing all-day kindergarten. And the council really took offense at that. But that's true, and some of you may remember it. And we can't go down that road again. So just as a point of clarification, no matter what we do, next fall there will be no classes of 30. And shame on anyone who wants to get a budget passed by that kind of rhetoric. I thought those scare tactics were in the past. I'm not accusing anyone here of doing it. It's not true. It didn't happen. I respect everybody in this room, sitting here. But I still think the $300,000, I do. I truly do. I do. Come on, you guys know me.
Only the people that are sitting here.
I need a handkerchief.
Those guys over there.
But I will say,
questionable.
the $600,000 is in a $176 million budget is not the kind of question we ever wrestled with. It was a done deal. 76 million. We'll find the money at some time. Who cares? You got the money. Let's go. We used to fill concert halls in 2012 before they discovered the insurance shortfall, before they discovered it. The concert hall was filled with folks, and a council approved a reconciliation in the board's budget of $5.5 million, and that was something to worry about. And no one was making any commitments to the board. Okay? And that was 2012. I thought at that point we were a little bit past some of the acrimony that existed in past years. But anyway, we are committed to ensuring that the Board of Ed has the money necessary to fund all of its programs. The $300,000 amendment is a good faith compromise, showing the Board of Ed that we are behind the new superintendent, and I think we should go with that, which we just approved it. Going any further, I don't think is necessary. Remember, anything we do has a direct impact on taxpayers. Better to find other ways to fund these kinds of things without having to increase city spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. Any further discussion on Mr. Hempstead's amendment?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Hempstead, do you have the total number?
Oh. Wait a minute, I just put that back in my packet. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
I have it in front of me, Doug, if you want.
No, I got it. I got the other one.
Let's make a 9 and
Yes.
put a 9 there.
The first, yeah, it's all zeros. Make the first 6 in the thousands, 100,000 places 9.
So the total would be, let's see, make sure I'm going to the right line on this. The total would be 316,939,469.
Right,
469.
yep.
And the total expenditures to exceed 333,695,669.
337 million.
I'm sorry, 337, sorry.
337,
Yeah.
695, 699.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Further discussion on Mr. Hempstead's motion, Miss Late, Miss Bowman, sorry.
I was gonna wait until you got it.
You could have been here all night.
Yeah, I'm not going to be supporting the amendment, but at the same time, I'm aware, and I just wanted to state that that doesn't mean that the BET can't fully fund the board based on the cap that we have already voted on. So I'm still, interested in seeing the Board of Education fully funded, and especially seeing Briggs taken care of. I know they're worried about some things. But we did already, we already voted to add the 300,000, and that, I think that's very good. And like I said, they can still be fully funded within the cap if that's what BET chooses to do.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, a vote on Mr. Hempstead's motion. All in favor? 4 in favor. Any further? Okay, and opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So you got that?
10 to 4.
Hello.
10. Listen to me.
9-4.
You guys are out.
9 to 4. Now, further discussion on Mr. Kimball's motion? Seeing none, all in favor of Mr. Kimball's motion, if Mr. Kimball would like to read it one more time for the edification of the council.
I will read the middle section, which contains the money. The maximum limit on total appropriations for the city of Norwalk for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016 shall be no more than $316,639,469. This appropriation cap represents total expenditures of $337,395,669. Estimated intergovernmental grants of $20,756,200.
That's Mr. Kimball's motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, raise your hand. Opposed? Everybody voted in favor? Oh, okay. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Igneri.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, Mayor.
Oh, yes, wait, 1 second. Thank you.
Too late.
Miss-
Too late.
Thank you, Eloisa. Where's that piece of paper you gave me now? On Friday night, the 3rd annual Beauty and Bubbles?
Bubbly.
The Beauty and Bubbly event will take place at the Norwalk Inn and Conference Center, sponsored by The Hour. Now, we have 3 lovely supermodels that will be appearing. One is the First Lady of Norwalk, Lucia Rilling. The other 2 are sitting right here with us. Faye, you should jump in here while you can. We can't, and Shannon.
Well, I wasn't invited because I'm pregnant. They didn't want me, so.
But we have Eloisa Melendez and Michelle Maggio, who will also be supermodels that evening. And the money raised goes to support the Domestic Violence Crisis Center of Norwalk. So please come out and support this event, and the money goes to an extremely worthy cause.
And who are the male models being represented here?
Well, are you volunteering?
I didn't say I was volunteering, I just want to know who's
Doug
already been
Hempstead.
picked.
Doug and me. And
No, you don't want to see me in the Speedo. Yeah.
No one said anything about
If we're doing-
mosquito.
Sorry?
Oh my God.
Now can we adjourn?
No.
Yes.
If we're doing public announcements,
Yes.
if all those who are interested in giving, I'm participating in a penguin plunge at Cafe Hester Beach Sunday morning at
Me
9
too.
o'clock for the Child Guidance Center of Mid-Fairfield. I've signed up. I'm on the site if you want to donate anything. We'll take anything. I did it last year.
wearing a Speedo
I did it last
on
year and
Sunday.
survived. My wife has threatened to do a lot of things to me for doing this again, but.
You put
for a
Vaseline
great
all over
cause.
your body to keep warm? That's what they do.
I'm well-dressed when I go in, but I come out well-soaked when you come out.
I will do my best to join in the plunge. I will not chicken out, but I have to be here at 11 o'clock for a transportation forum.
Really.
No, at the library.
But I've already, that's like saying when I go to play golf, I hurt my back, so I'm not going to be able to play well.
Isn't the
At the
council,
library, not here.
What do you think I said here?
You said,
No, at
right
the library.
here,
Oh, it is at the library.
Yeah.
at the library.
Donna said it steered me wrong.
I know, I just
Okay, vote adjourned.
Now can we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Mr. Igneri, I don't want to take that right away from you.
I need 2 minutes.
all in favor?